I just got an awesome idea. My government can import millions of people who believe they're superior to everyone outside their group and who demand blasphemy laws to shield themselves and their ideas from any sort of criticism. Then my government can give these people what they want, destroy my ability to criticize ideas I find dangerous and stupid, and turn me into a second-class citizen in my own country. Pretty cool idea, right? Yeah, sad part is I didn't even come up with it, so I can't really take the credit. I got this idea from the cowards and traitors who run the UK. As we read in the Times, Labour's Islamophobia definition gives grooming gangs impunity. Definition will also shut down difficult but necessary conversations about gender equality and even Islamist extremism, says Claire Coutinho. If you thought the grooming gangs acted with impunity before, you ain't seen nothing yet. Grooming gangs will be able to carry out their crimes with impunity if a new definition of Islamophobia is given the go-ahead, the conservatives have warned. Writing in the Times, Claire Coutinho, the Shadow Equalities Minister, said that the definition risked intensifying the culture of censorship by creating a special status for one group over others. Yeah, interestingly, there is a legal system that gives a special status to one group over others. It's called Sharia, and British leaders absolutely love it. She claimed that Labour was only pressing ahead with the new definition to stave off the threat posed by pro-Gaza candidates at the next election. Steve Reed, the new Housing and Communities Secretary, has taken responsibility for the policy after Angela Rayner was forced to quit over her tax affairs. In 2021, Reed, who was then Shadow Local Government Secretary, wrote to all Labour local authority leaders, urging them to implement a definition of Islamophobia drawn up by MPs. So, we've got Muslims in the UK shouting from the rooftops that they're going to turn the UK into an Islamic state. But instead of the British government focusing on making sure that never happens, they're focusing on Islamophobia. Like good little dimmies. Several Labour authorities, including Telford and Wrekin, Ipswich, Kirklees, and Wakefield, subsequently did so. Coutinho said, Labour are doubling down by introducing a state-sanctioned definition of Islamophobia, which will intensify the culture of censorship that allowed the grooming gangs to carry out their crimes with impunity. An official definition of Islamophobia, specifically designed to be adopted by our institutions and public services, will shut down difficult but necessary conversations about grooming gangs, gender equality, and even Islamist extremism. It would create a special status for one group above others, which risks further breeding resentment and making our community cohesion problems worse. So, she's concerned not only that the new definition of Islamophobia will protect the grooming gangs, but also that it will cause more resentment and make community cohesion worse. In other words, the government officially defines Islamophobia, and people are no longer allowed to criticize Islam. This builds resentment, so people will want to criticize Islam even more, and the government will have to crack down even harder on Islamophobes. This builds more resentment, and so on. But what's the definition of Islamophobia they've been working on? The Spectator reports, many people have been warning for some time about the perilous consequences of introducing an official definition of Islamophobia to this country, specifically in regard to its potential to curtail free speech and reintroduce de facto blasphemy laws. But it's taken a leading KC, an advisor to the Attorney General, Lord Hermer no less, to remind us of a further danger, the likelihood that it will deter police from investigating Muslim suspects or offenders for fear of accusations of racism. As reported in the Daily Telegraph today, Tom Cross KC has said it was reasonable to suppose that such a definition would in practice be relied on in objecting to the use of powers by the police and security services to investigate persons who happen to be Muslim for criminal offenses, including of the most serious violent or sexual nature. Cross added that a new state-endorsed definition of Islamophobia could also be used to rewrite hate crime and harassment laws. If a Muslim is breaking the law, but he says it's what his religion teaches, police are going to be too scared to stop him, so Muslims will get a free pass. Hasn't the UK been down this road already? Why are they trying to make it worse? His misgivings are well-founded. The current definition of Islamophobia, as yet to be ratified by a working group commissioned in March by Angela Rayner and headed by former Conservative Attorney General Dominic Grieve KC, is fraught with future peril. This is because it fatally conflates Islam, the religion, with the ethnic minority of most people in this country raised in that faith. As it was defined by All-Party Parliamentary Group in 2018, Islamophobia is rooted in racism and is a type of racism that targets expressions of Muslimness or perceived Muslimness. That cynical definition sought to shield both Islam and Muslims from criticism, and there's little reason to believe that the current working group will deviate from it when it reaches its conclusion. Islamophobia is rooted in racism and is a type of racism that targets expressions of Muslimness or perceived Muslimness. So, a Muslim calls Jews and Christians the worst of creatures. Are Jews and Christians allowed to object? No, because calling Jews and Christians the worst of creatures is an expression of Muslimness. We read in Surah 98, verse 6 of the Quran, "Verily, those who disbelieve in the religion of Islam, the Quran, and Prophet Muhammad, blah, 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 from among the people of the Scripture, Jews and Christians, and al-mushrikun," mushrikun are people who associate partners with Allah, "will abide in the fire of hell. They are the worst of creatures." Jews, Christians, and other non-Muslims are the worst of creatures. We're lower than insects, according to the Quran. But Surah 3, verse 110 says that Muslims are the best of peoples ever raised up for mankind. Muslims are the best of peoples. Jews and Christians are the worst of creatures. So, a Muslim can spend every waking moment heaping abuse on Jews and Christians, and not only are Jews and Christians not allowed to insult the Muslim back, they can't even object to being called the worst of creatures because objecting would be Islamophobic. Suppose a popular British Muslim announces on YouTube that once Muslims get the political power, ex-Muslims will be publicly executed.
This is a part of our religion. There's a reason to it. Yeah? There's a reason why there's a capital punishment. Because people like you, little weaklings, who leave their religion and cause corruption in the land by spreading it, the capital punishment in Islamic law would be applied to you. We have no doubt. And we're proud of that.
Will ex-Muslims even be allowed to say, "No, please don't kill us when you get the political power"? Not at all. Because calling for the public executions of ex-Muslims is an expression of Muslimness, so condemning it would be a form of racism, which would make any ex-Muslims who object to being killed racists and Islamophobes, even if they're the same race as the Islamists who want to kill them. Keep in mind, the people who are letting this happen in the UK are the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of the men and women who once decided that they would rather die than surrender to the Germans. Now they're surrendering, not to an invading military, but to words, words, words.
You're proud of that. You're proud of that. You're proud of that. It just backfired on you. You're proud of that. You're proud of that. You're proud of that. It just backfired on you. This is a part of our religion.